Hello, everybody. Welcome to Critical Beauty. Today, I have another wonderful guest. Her name is Sheyla Ravelo Perez. She is the newly crowned Miss International Cuba 2023, and she will represent Cuba in the upcoming Miss International 2023 competition that will take place in Tokyo, Japan on October 26th. So I can't wait to chat with her again. I believe she's in the chat room. Let's admit her. If you have any questions for Sheyla, please feel free to comment in the chat box below, and I'd be more than happy to read the questions back to her. Let's welcome her in. I think she's connected to audio.
Rafa, can you hear me?
I can hear you, baby. Woohoo!
Hello.
Could you lower your the camera? Could you? Yeah, because I see a lot of your angle thing. Thank you, darling.
Okay. Hold on.
Okay. You disappeared. Where are you? Come back. Unmute yourself.
Is that better?
Much better. Much better. You have no idea how I'm looking forward to this chat with you. Okay.
Oh, my love.
I don't. Well, the first time I saw you in person, I was just so blown away by that beautiful face. That's one thing. Yeah. And then, of course, that hair,
Thank you.
the beautiful, gorgeous porcelain skin, and Michael, your boyfriend, is so lucky to have you.
He was walking by over there in front of the camera when you said that. I'll let him know.
Yes, please. So I think the big question is, Miss International Cuba 23 title, you've recently won, well, actually 3 weeks ago. Has it sunk into you yet? I mean, are you still recovering from that shock when you were crowned 3 weeks ago?
I think it's one of those things. I've told you, and I think I told you in person, I was like, I'm the kind of person, if we're going and we're moving, like I won't ever stop. But the second, like there's a lull is when I crash, and there hasn't been a lull since. So we immediately hit the ground running. And that was something I wanted to as well. That was part of my own wishes I was like, we don't have a lot of time. Let's get everything we can get done this weekend. And so immediately sent in all my paperwork, bought my ticket to Japan. I want to stay within the first few days of being crowned, just so I knew it was there, and we locked in the price and we're good. And no, it's been a whirlwind.
That's wonderful.
I don't know that it's sunk in. It'll hit me in Japan. I'll touch down, put foot on Japanese soil, and I'll be like, oh.
Well, I think you didn't know, none of the girls knew that I was going to be judged, right? Because I was actually told in secrecy, Rafa, you're going to be judged, but please don't tell the girls until you show up in Tampa. Okay, like how in the world could I possibly, I can't keep a secret. Sometimes it's hard for me to keep a secret, especially if you're in this business and you're very chatty. I mean, I believe in confidentiality, that's fine. But if you're so eager and enthusiastic, you can't just say, "Oh, girls, I'm going to judge," blah, blah, blah. And that if I had done that, the attitude amongst you would have like changed totally. You guys probably going to start, brown kissing me, brown nosing me, and all that lovely stuff. You know what I mean? Like bowing,
how we are.
bowing to me, putting an altar in your bedroom, worshiping Rafa, blah, blah, blah. Just kidding.
Casually.
Casually, that's right. But I think the entire competition, even though there were only 5 girls, all of you girls were incredible. We're beautiful. We're very well prepared, and you put on a good show. Even though the pageant was very small, you guys put on a very amazing, wonderful show. And everybody spoke so eloquently, both in English and Spanish. I was just like mesmerized. I mean. Now, the thing is, did you get any, I'm sure you probably got wonderful comments, positive comments. What about the Cubans living in Cuba, in the island? Do they react to you winning at all?
Yeah. So, of course, it's always going to be a smaller subset of the population that even has reliable enough access to internet to have been able to watch and, of course, go on social media and comment. But feedback has been very, very positive. I
Mhm.
want to say thanks for Cuban pageants really picked up around this time last year. And, of course, with my candidacy last time around, Cuba really it took notice of pageants. And so it's just the most beautiful support. It's like aunties and uncles. It's like having even just expanding my family. And it's just the sweetest. And I've been made aware that there's even group chats on the island where people just send in, they're like, okay, everyone, we're going to comment this on this post. And then make sure you all tune into this. And it's just this rallying cry of support just for each and every single one of the Cuban women and men that are competing on the international stage, not just myself. And it's incredible. That's something that Cuba in years past hasn't had. And so, Lee's, when she competed her time around, as well as other previous queens that went to the international stage, a lot of times people didn't realize Cuba was even competing internationally.
Mhm.
But there has been a beautiful movement and incredible effort on behalf of the Cuban people still on the island to make sure we knew we are loved and supported both on and off of our theater.
I think I think well, I really hope, and I'm really crossing my fingers that you're being crowned Miss International Cuba, and Sophia being crowned Miss Grand Cuba, and all the other US based Cuban queens. I
Mhm.
th- I think I really hope that the Cuban press in Cuba take notice of all these amazing successes that Cuban women have had in America, and I think they should just let go of this stupid regulation that pageants are not allowed in the country. Just let it go. I mean, what do you
Mhm.
have to lose? Actually, you have to gain many good stuff if you allow pageants in the country. And let me ask you a question. If you had a
Mhm.
chance to have dinner with the Cuban president,
Mm.
what would you tell him about pageantry, the importance of pageantry?
Well, if I got the chance to sit down with Diaz Canel, I would also hope that the living remnants of the Castro family are also there because they are most in power. So although we have a president that is still who has a big play into what policies get put in effect in Cuba. And not only would I speak about pageantry, but any level, just opening our borders to all the world has to offer, not only so that people can experience Cuba, but that so that Cuba can experience other cultures as well and really make a grand reentrance onto the world stage.
Mhm.
Not only my goodness, not only would it be a beautiful exchange of culture, but it'd benefit us in every sense of the word.
Mhm.
You cannot run a successful country, you cannot grow, you cannot prosper if your people are suffering. And it doesn't matter how the top, however many are doing, ultimately, I believe we all have a responsibility to lending a helping hand to those who come after us. And an important part of that is paving the way and creating opportunities for them to thrive, even
You,
opportunities that we may not have had ourselves.
Yeah, you said the magic word, opportunity, because
Mhm.
I was just chatting with Sophia earlier, and I told her, that when Cuban beauty queens they don't represent a land, a geographical
Mhm.
land. They represent the entire community of Cubans living in Cuba and also outside Cuba. So I think a lot of people are so obsessed with associating the representative with a specific territory or with a specific geographical area. People let it go. Okay. We're living in a global village. There are Cubans everywhere, all over the planet. Okay. There are Cubans in Mars. There are Cubans in Venus. There are Cubans in Pluto. So these Cuban women on the international stage, they represent all the Cubans in the entire galaxy. Okay. So I think it's great that you're going to compete in a pageant, which had a long tradition of actually promoting goodwill
Mhm.
and friendship and diplomacy. It was between the two of you the last two standing between you and Maria Vilches. I love Maria, by the way, and she needs to come back next year. Maria, if you're watching the
Mhm.
show, you need to come back, girl. Okay, but you were the one. I mean, all the judges were unanimous in their decision. We have to send you to Japan because not because you have experience, with pageantry, but you embody what we think is the modern Cuban woman. Yes. So, and not only that, but you like to pick up litter and trash.
Love to get my hands dirty.
Okay, so be honest. How much trash have you collected so far in the last 3 days or so far?
In the last 3 days, okay. So the last 3 days have been more of an effort around the house.
Okay, that's fine.
Because our house is messy, several gallons. But over the course of the last year, 1,400 gallons of trash.
Oh my God.
Spanning several countries.
Geez, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot. Okay. I mean, wow. I mean, like with April 24th, 22nd, which is supposed to be the Earth Day, right? But Earth Day should actually be every day, not just April 24th. You know what I mean? So, and I think it's important, especially, for parents who are raising young kids these days, to teach their kids how to clean after themselves, how to clean the environment, blah, 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 and all that wonderful stuff. Now, are you excited about Japan? That's a stupid question.
Am I excited about Japan? Yes, Rafa, I'm excited about Japan. Imagine if I was like, no, yes, I'm excited about Japan. Are you kidding me?
Okay, that was an understatement. Now, I haven't seen the schedule of activities. Have you? I haven't seen them anywhere.
We have a very brief outline, so it doesn't go as far into detail of, okay, we're doing X, Y, and Z. It does give an idea of cities, but we still don't know what our individual groups are. So I'm not quite sure all the activities I'll be doing just yet, but I have sort of a general geographical idea so I can start packing. October is a very beautiful time to visit Japan. It's kind of moderate climate, but on northern parts of the island, it can get quite chilly, especially since I'm not used to the cold.
Oh, because you're an island girl.
I'm an island girl, yeah.
Girl. But do you know how many suitcases are you going to bring with you? I would think a lot of light clothes, or maybe not, some winter stuff as well. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure yet. It depends on my national costume and where that fits.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. Okay, so
maybe we'll talk about it later. But it depends on how well I can pack. This is really putting me to the test of just how much I can fit into one space. I have 2 suitcases that are included with my fare, so that's always a big help. And then of course carry-on, and then a giant backpack, which at this point, I don't feel like they should let me bring, but they always let me through. So I'm like, it's okay. It's the JanSport, like big student. I've had it since high school. It's this wide. And they're like, yeah, backpack, it's fine. Take it on personal item. And I'm like, oh, thank you. But it's questionable. It's like another carry-on. Okay. So we'll see if it can all fit in those. If we can fit less luggage, it'd be ideal. I'm going by myself, so I don't know if you can imagine me touting bags on bags through the airport as I'm running to my next connection. Yeah,
I can imagine that. You know what? Yeah. If you want to travel light, do you have a basic black dress that's stretchable, that you can stretch, that you pull down all the way below your knees or above your knees, depending on this event? If it's a sexy, dressy cocktail event, you can like lift it up a little bit, show some of your legs, and then just accessorize. That's true. A basic black dress, you can probably produce like 10 different looks, which is a basic black dress.
That is true. We are looking into a lot of suit separates, or if you get like a matching set and then you can kind of interchange between. We'll see how we do it. I did, if you remember though, when we were there in Tampa, everyone brought one suitcase and I brought 3.
I know. I saw that. And it worked well. Well, it's only for 3 days anyway.
One for each day. There we go.
Yeah, but when you compete internationally, I think pageant fans, especially those fans who are obsessed with fashion and with judging, beauty queens by the way, what they wear or how many times they change, I expect you to change at least twice a day, right? For every day.
Probably,
yeah, exactly. And of course, I'm sure the sponsors are going to shower you with all these lovely gifts and presents and whatnot. That's why it's wise, young lady, to bring an extra luggage empty.
Yes, I have that coming. Michael's going to be coming to the final show, and he also gets 2 suitcases included with his airfare, and at least one of those is mine.
That's one. And you have to hand carry your evening gown. Guard it with your life. You don't want it checked in, because God knows God knows another country could see it and steal it away from you. You don't want that, okay? Guard it with your life. And also, oh, okay. Like when you think about activities, I know it's going to be very, very hectic. And I'm sure you've experienced that when you were competing in this earth where there were tons of activities. How do you deal with like exhaustion? Or because you need a lot of stamina and energy, correct?
Mhm.
Are you going to be
With
taking, like,
exhaustion, it doesn't set in. It doesn't set in until you really get back to the hotel. Generally, activities are planned outside of the hotel. It doesn't really set in until you're back home, and then it's like I'm brushing out my hair and taking off my makeup, and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't realize how tired I was. I'm someone that's very energized by the people around me. And so long as I'm meeting new people, talking, having a good time, I will stay on my feet. But the second we get back to that room, I am down for the count. But no caffeine, no nothing, just vibes. Life.
well, what if you, let's say, what if you feel like, your stomach is growling, and of course, you're hungry. I mean, do you have like some emergency, like snacks, like seaweed crackers maybe, or
I've never really packed snacks before just because
no?
I'm
Okay.
so scared that they're going to get crushed up in the bag or that something will
Oh.
spill onto the clothes.
Uh-huh.
No, if anything, one thing you can do is generally the hotels have buffets, or if there's like fruit on hand, keep that in the room. I will be getting to Japan a day early, so I might shop for snacks there just to have throughout the course of them, because I know we're staying in the same hotel. That's something that's very different this time around. Is last time we changed hotels just about every day that we were on the island hopping schedule. This time around, we'll be in one hotel. We'll really be able to make a home base, make it comfy, make it cozy, and kind of have a little something nice to come back to every night. And so I might go shopping that first day, just get everything I forgot for one.
Yes.
And then some snacks to have to nibble on throughout the month, and then keep those in the room.
Light
If you have
snacks.
suggestions, you let me know.
I will DM you. I think it's a good idea that you're, going there a day earlier, because it'll give you some time to, I guess, to adjust to the jet lag or situation.
Mhm.
I don't know what time it is in Japan. I think it's like 14 hours ahead of time for Miami. But yeah, you need that extra day, to rest and relax. Now, are you learning some Japanese?
Of course.
You are, okay. Can you
Of
say
course.
something? Can you say something now? Something basic? Like what should my name is, blah 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 blah.
Mizu Gosha Kurusai, which I think what might be the most important thing while I'm over there, because it's water and green tea, please.
Okay.
To fight the exhaustion and the dehydration.
Okay. All right.
Of course, basic greetings, pleases and thank yous. And I'm still working on it, but hopefully I can get as fluent as possible before I go there. And then I just come back native proficiency.
Yeah. Good. Well, actually, I'm sure you probably have one of these like language translation apps on your iPhone or whatever. You can always use that one, I
Yeah.
think, yeah, they become very, very, very practical, but that's good. So, how much of the Japanese culture are you familiar with as far as customs are concerned? We all know that they're very respectful,
Yes.
they value respect and civility.
Quite a bit. I think my unique kind of position as Cuba's national coordinator within one of the United Nations programs, I think that gives me a little bit more insight to other cultures than if I were doing really anything else, because I interact with people from different countries generally on a day-to-day. And so some of the daily customs are things you wouldn't even think about being from a Latin country, but things to take into consideration. And of course, I've been wanting to return to Japan for quite a while. I joke that this pageant was my little scheme to get back there, my excuse to go back, but I had a brief layover there. And I wish I could have left the airport to do more, but the time didn't allow it. So I'm excited to go back, and I can't wait. One thing I am doing though, because I don't want to embarrass myself while I'm over there, I've switched to exclusively using chopsticks at my house.
Yeah.
I refuse to be bumbling, and then the food drops down onto my dress, and it's bad for everyone. So I'm practicing here.
Well, do you drink like sake, the Japanese wine? Like,
I don't drink at all.
oh, you don't drink. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Sorry.
You're fine. After the pageant, ask me again.
But I think since your next visit in Japan is going to be much longer, I would hope that you girls will have the opportunity to try one of those like hot steam baths or something, because they're the hot tubs,
Yes,
the hot tub
the springs.
yes. I think you guys should have that privilege to be able to try that one.
I mean, I think we might. So one big thing about Miss International is that the owner of the pageant, they also own the Miss Paris Beauty Spa. That has several locations all over. And so I know that there historically at least has been at least one day where they go and everyone gets treatments. And so I'm particularly looking forward to that day, whichever day it may be. I hope we can. And I did extend my stay. I'm opting to extend my stay regardless of the outcome of finals night. So I'll be returning back to the States November 1st. So I'll be, whatever I didn't get to do, whatever I didn't get to try, I'll be running around Japan pretty much until it's time for turkey here in the US.
So that's like a day after Halloween, pretty much. Yeah, October 31st. Yeah. Well, I hope they have some Halloween party or something.
I hope so. I was reading that Japan has recently adopted Halloween and it's starting to become more popular. Okay. So they might have some events. We'll see. But I know a lot of times celebrations can even be in August. So I'm hoping I didn't miss out on them. We'll see. If anything, I'll wear my Halloween costume on the flight back home. I'll figure out something. It's fine. We'll make it work.
Actually, before I log into Zoom, I was like preparing something Cuban in your honor.
Oh.
Guess what I made? Cuban plantains.
Okay.
Bathe in brown sugar, baby, with coconut. Yummy. Oh,
I maybe that.
Want some? They're very good.
Mail me some. Just put in a little Ziploc bag. It'll be good. They travel well.
It is so good. So good. Now, of course, a lot of people don't know that Miss International in the last few years has been focusing on SDG platform. SDG is short for Sustainable Development Goals. And I've been like doing some reading, and there are actually like 17 goals.
Yes.
Like, that's a lot. That is a lot. And yours, I think yours is goal number 14.
14, life underwater. But of course, my work also touches on 13, climate action, and 15, life on land. Okay,
so they're all interrelated, interconnected.
Quite a bit for the climate ones, but primarily 14, that's the work we're doing with the ECOP program. We're directly, we're a part of the Ocean Decade Innovative Framework. And so directly goal 14, but of course, touching on to climate action, goal 13 as well. The two really can't be separated.
No, you can't, because they're interconnected. Also, they're actually at the heart of what they call the 2030 agenda. So basically their goal is to make the lives of every human on Earth to be at least much better than it is right now by 2030. And I read that there are 5 like critical dimensions, and they all start with the letter P: people, prosperity, planet, partnership, and peace. That kind of reminds me of the 5 R's in this Earth. Do you remember the 5 R's?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Of course, reduce, reuse, recycle.
Yes.
And then the renew.
What?
What are the last 2?
Recycle and what?
Reduce, recycle.
Reuse.
Yep. Reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Reduce, reuse, and then rethink.
Rethink.
And recycle, yeah.
And there we go.
Recycle. So yeah, so those 5 R's pretty much, go together with the 5 P's of the SDG agenda. So it is so important, I think, I've been following Miss International for so many years, and I've never thought that it would, elevate itself to really caring. Is just going beyond the friendship's, original purpose of goodwill and friendship. It actually is embracing all the important elements of sustainability and whatnot.
Of course.
Now,
and one thing I'm really, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm really loving to see just how much essentially they're playing into their platform. So when they said SDGs, not only is it part of the pageant, it's the SDG videos, but I was recently made aware that on finals night and right before finals night, what they like to do is they actually invite the ambassadors that are there from each country over so that they can meet the girls. And I think that's incredible. Going so far as to make the connection with each country's countrymen, an ambassador, to really bring them to make the introduction so that some real work and change can be done on the interpersonal level is incredible. And I personally have never heard of another pageant doing that. So I'm looking forward to that aspect as well.
Yes. As you, of course, you're very concerned about the health of the ocean, underwater and everything, the decline of the ocean health, due primarily to plastic pollution.
Yes.
There's nothing, one of the things that I hate is like plastic. Okay, granted, plastic has its own benefits. Okay, you need plastic to preserve your food. You need plastic bag to pick up your dog poo. So I mean, there are many good things about plastic, but I think it becomes a problem when people start dumping plastic in places where they shouldn't be dumping them. Okay, and they're not doing anything about it. And I noticed too, I think that even in industrialized countries, even though they have all these anti-pollution programs, there are still people who continue doing it.
Yes.
And then when you go to the poor countries, a lot of people in the poor countries, they don't really care so much about pollution because they have far more important things to worry about, like feeding their families and putting a roof over their heads and whatnot. So when you go to some third world countries, you can't help but, oh my God, their river is so polluted and I don't see any fish. All the marine life is dead, Now here's a question for you. If you see a fellow Miss International delegate throwing trash in the street, what would you do?
Well, one, I'd be appalled.
Okay.
Be appalled.
I'm gonna slap her. Just kidding.
And I just slap her really quick and I run away. No, there's definitely an opportunity to educate in any interaction that you go into. I definitely go up to her and be like, oh, you dropped something back there. And of course, should the issue not be resolved at that point, I'd be like, I definitely just tell her how harmful it is. Sometimes you can't always kind of correct the behavior in the moment because people can tend to get defensive. And so in that case, I would just pick it up myself. Sometimes it isn't worth the hassle.
That's true.
I would hope I don't see any of that, though. I would really hope that none of my fellow sisters would go so far as to do that.
Well, you know what? Not only your sisters, but also the staff. Like, I think it's almost inevitable. Like when you go to like big events, okay, like conferences, workshops, and whatnot, it's almost inevitable not to have some type of plastic material, like plastic plastic cups, plastic forks, plastic knives, plastic plates, etc. But what bothers me is that why can't you use just real cutlery, real silverware, real plates? Why do you have to resort on plastic? Because you know what? I think they're lazy. They're too lazy to wash their own reusable dishes and whatnot, Yeah,
so, and it also becomes a measure of essentially accountability, but also accessibility. Japan, I am hoping essentially not to see as much of a problem there with the prevalence, of course, of chopsticks and the disposable bamboo ones. And so it's not as much of an issue. That's, of course, biodegradable material, but it does become a question of accessibility. The plastics, when they were introduced early on, just took off so much that there really wasn't research done into alternatives for years and years and years after the fact. And to the extent that people don't see money in researching alternatives or producing alternatives to plastic because it's so easily accessible and so cost efficient to produce.
Right.
Regardless of the health effects, the bottom dollar makes sense. And so I'm not someone that when I go to an event and there is plastic being used or if someone's using a plastic water bottle, because sometimes clean water isn't readily accessible and that's the only way that you can hydrate yourself. And in that case, of course, go.
Yes.
I'm not the type to kind of wag my finger at someone and point it out because ultimately it isn't just individual actions that are contributing to the problem. Although as much as I'd like you to believe that it is really a lack of supportive infrastructure for getting rid of these plastics, for properly disposing of waste and making sure it doesn't get into oceans or other landscapes, and a lack of proper education on the harmful effects, and of course, accessibility to efficient alternatives.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. But I think what sort of like troubles me is the fact that everybody's so big on recycling, on saving plastic and whatnot. I just found out that in America, I think less than 15% of plastic is actually being recycled. The rest
Correct.
is being dumped in landfills, in the oceans, and everywhere in the environment. You know, I live in a small town, about 8,000 people. You know, we're very
Mhm.
conscious of the environment. But every day when I drive by my neighborhood, I see nip bottles being thrown on my lawn, out in the woods where wild animals live. They, they
Mhm.
they confuse it for food and they eat it and they choke to death. You know, like little birds, little rabbits, and deer and whatnot. So those little things really bother me. So
Yeah.
no matter how you educate people, there are always going to be some people who will not follow
Of
these,
course.
these rules and whatnot. They just don't care about Earth. They don't care about nature.
Absolutely.
Period.
Which
So
is why recycling, we're not going to out recycle and recycle ourselves out of the mess that we've created essentially. And so I really think it's time for legislative action to reduce the amount of plastics being sold at all, and
Mhm.
also funding going into researching alternatives and actually coming up with a true alternative to plastic, one that's accessible and one that is just as usable and useful as plastic is. And of course, real consequences for corporations that are dumping metric tons of this into the ocean.
Mhm.
We have the research now to even show that yes, not only do a small portion of the plastic sold in the US actually end up getting recycled, but you look even further and there's only a few sorts of plastic that are even recyclable to begin with.
Exactly.
And then the fact that the more you recycle the plastic, the more you're creating actually microplastics, because since it's now kind of a mosaic of a bunch of different sources,
Yeah.
they're much more likely to kind of flake off and leach, and those are harder to get rid of than a singular piece of plastic is. And so
Yeah.
I don't believe recycling, although, a good effort, isn't the end all be all answer. And it's really time for us to start looking into other much more stable solutions to our plastic problem.
Mhm. I totally agree. And not only that, but in some countries, it's very expensive to recycle. So that's why they don't even
Yes,
bother, because it's where are you going to get the money to recycle? Like
of course.
1,000 ton of plastic bottles and whatnot. Although, however, I've seen videos of very creative individuals who actually use plastic to create houses,
Yes, eco bricks.
yeah, to create like a little kayak or canoe made nothing but plastic bottles.
Mhm.
I think somewhere in Africa I saw that video. I was like, my, this is ingenious,
Yes,
this is ingenious. Even though it's trashy, you can still make treasure out of this trash
of course. No,
if you
and
just
I've
use
seen some of that as well too. And so that's a much better use of recycle has kind of come to mean the like on a large scale recycling plants, and it's something that's taken care of by someone else. But reusing and finding new creative ways to reuse that plastic is absolutely heading in the right direction. And so one of the things that struck me most of my time in Jamaica actually was a man who created a boat. He called it his unsinkable boat, entirely out of plastic barrels. And he's absolutely right. Even if it comes apart in a billion pieces, you still have rafts and like floating materials to hold on to. He took us out on it for a spin. We went up and down the north coast of the island, looking at the different mangroves, surveying the health of them, and the ingenuity of people when they are backed into a corner and they're forced to use only the materials that they have available to them. It is incredible what we can make. And
Mhm.
that's really something I admire about the Caribbean as a whole. Cuba, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, we don't have much, but with what we have, we can make anything.
Exactly. If you just really put your mind into it and whatnot. One of my favorite things is, like, a big empty Coke plastic bottle. You cut off
Mhm.
the top. You cut off its body halfway, and then you use the bottom uh as a planter. You put soil
Mhm.
and you plant seeds and whatnot and everything. And then with the other top, you use it as a funnel. You
Yeah.
can like pour drink into little bottles and whatnot. So yeah, it has its own genius uses as well. So that's good.
Mhm.
Now, let's talk about your costume. Is your costume going to have plastic in it?
I'll have to ask the designer. I don't think
Or
so,
sustainable
but
costume?
plastic sneaky. It is sustainable in the sense that it will be rented. So
Okay,
we did not have to buy
good.
a bunch of new scrap materials. This will be rented, as will the rest of my pageant wardrobe. So once again, I'm making a pledge to sustainably source my pageant wardrobe for this upcoming pageant.
Okay, that's wonderful. So I would imagine it's going to be very, very festive looking, colorful, representative of the island and whatnot, you know.
You can imagine.
Okay, I can imagine. Okay. Now, here's a good question. Who do you wish to be your roommate?
Oh, you
Have you,
know,
have you had a
I
chance to chat with some of these girls?
yes, so we're actually all in a big group chat. We are
Okay.
in one big group chat. It's where we send information. Anytime a new queen is crowned, Jasmine or the administrators from Miss International will send in the picture. We all go, "Bienvenido, Reina, welcome," and it's really cute. I haven't had much of the opportunity to talk to many of the girls. As you know, Miss Chile was there on finals
Yes, of
night,
course.
so I
Yeah.
did get an opportunity to meet her. She is such a peach. She is so sweet.
She's sweet.
I always like when pageants take the initiative to really mix the cultures.
Okay.
And so this person's getting put with this person that's completely from the other side of the globe, because it just really lends to that like melding and blending in the melting pot of cultures. And so I think that'd be super cool if I had someone from Asia or even Africa, Europe, somewhere. I can learn a new language, maybe. I can teach someone a little Spanish. We'll see what's happening.
Like Cuban dancing, whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fun. Sometimes speaking English is not really important because you can always rely on, of course, body language.
Of course.
Like facial expression, but a specific body language may not have the same meaning.
Yes.
In your culture or in the other girls' culture, so you have to be kind of like very cautious, like very careful.
That is true.
What does this mean? or like, what does this mean? Is it offensive or what? No, just kidding. So you have to be very, very aware of what you're going to say. I mean, again, translation app.
Of course.
Translation app works wonders and stuff and everything. And I'm sure they're going to provide professional translators as well, in the event, so that's good. I can see probably rooming with, I don't know, maybe Equatorial Guinea. She's from Africa, but she speaks Spanish. Because Equatorial Guinea used to be a Spanish colony, and it's the only African country that was colonized by Spain.
Interesting.
So so that could be a possibility. I don't know if there's a representative from Equatorial Guinea this year, but who knows stuff. So how many suitcases are you carrying again?
We don't know yet. We're at a minimum of 3. It may go up. It will not go down.
Well, it has to be at least a minimum of 5, I would think. That includes your shoes, your accessories and whatnot, all your makeup, everything,
By my math, minimum 3, maybe more.
Maybe more?
We'll see. Maybe more.
Do you have a lookbook?
We're building it.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And I have this crazy idea. I don't know if Liz Garcia or Noemi will approve it, but to gain more traction to your social media and to your cause, how about having a cute little photo shoot of you dressed as a mermaid, okay? And then you're lying on the beach somewhere, but you're being smothered by all this plastic, the ocean, you know what I mean? So you're actually killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You're promoting SDG, and you're also promoting Miss International stuff, and the human problem. What do you think, baby?
I like it. I've seen photo shoots like that before. I feel like that's what's missing from editorial photography. That's why I like to see more. I feel like in the early 2000s, fashion was so like, it wasn't afraid to be controversial in the sense of like it had a message or they were going to do something wild. And so I think that'd be super cool. Something along those lines.
You're caught in this big, humongous industrial fishing net with all the other animals and whatnot. And you guys are desperately trying to escape this big net and film.
I'm scuba certified. Maybe we could do something underwater.
There you go.
There we go.
Have you ever worn a mermaid outfit, like a mermaid tail?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes, but it's going to be less cool than you imagine. So do you remember the show H2O? Did you ever watch that?
Oh, no.
It's an Australian kids TV show. It was in the early 2000s. So of course these three girls become mermaids, and then the second they touch like a bit of water, even if it's like particularly humid outside, boom, tail. I was obsessed.
You were?
I was looking up everything. I was like, all right, spells to make me a mermaid. How can we do this? My mom, my beautiful mother, she sewed a mermaid tail out of fabric, and she put a piece of foam in the end to make it the shape.
Yeah.
And at that point where I was living, the only like close body of water was a lake, like kind of a questionable lake. And so I was there in the shallows trying to live my mermaid dreams, but the foam and the tail was floating on top of the water and it just was not working, but I refused to give up. I was doing that for like a solid hour. And there's videos of it somewhere. Well, I tried to erase it from my brain, but you pulled it out of me.
Well, if you're in water for such a long period of time, doesn't your skin shrivel up like your fingers?
Yes.
And your toes?
And it's not just your fingers. It can extend to quite a bit of your skin. So I want to say the longest I've been underwater, of course, supported by oxygen, and it would be close to an hour. And that's only on one dive, not including us being at the surface and kind of swimming to and fro, being on the boat, doing something near the shoreline. So underwater deep for about an hour. And so it'll extend to all of your palms.
Yes.
The rest of your skin starts to feel a little funky. Your lips actually shrivel up as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it gets very.
Do you remember if you do you remember if you put on like sunscreen, like with a high SPF factor? Because sometimes, you need sunscreen.
Zinc oxide, pure zinc oxide, non-ionized. That's what's safest for reefs.
Okay.
It's also the most durable. It's like very like stark, sticky, like thick white. So it's not the most attractive, but it's the most durable. So it'll stay on even at depth, even as you're moving and grooving. And it's also safe for coral reefs. So that's really all I wear underwater. And then of course, all of the equipment and scuba suit with the thick neoprene, it's UPF 50 plus. So that provides some protection as well.
Wow, that's amazing. You know what? I have another thought. Maybe if after your Miss International stint, assuming you do not win, you may want to consider competing in Miss Mermaid International.
Will they give me a mermaid tail?
I think they're based in Florida, like Neptune, Florida, or somewhere. Yeah,
really?
Yeah, they have an Instagram account. It's like, this is interesting. It's open to all ages and all genders and whatnot. I was looking at the male merman. I was like, ooh, okay, he's hot. Okay, that's cute. All right, he looks like Poseidon and Neptune and whatnot. So
I'll take a gander.
Maybe you and Michael can join the Miss and Mr. Mermaid version.
Rafa, I've been trying to convince him to do a pageant.
Do it.
I know.
He should do it. He should at least represent Armenia because he's Armenian, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying.
Male pageants have become dime a dozen these days, and a lot of them are very, very good. They have great sponsors and great huge pageant following. So he may want to consider definitely. And you can be his coach.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. He's warming up to the idea slowly but surely. It's not a definite yes yet.
Yes.
But in due time.
Okay. Now, also, actually, I have another idea, which is related to your cause as far as saving the oceans and whatnot. Have you ever considered maybe working with PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, because they have a very strong program or projects involving saving ocean and marine animals and whatnot. Those caught in industrial fishing and animals being killed by plastic. So maybe that's something that you may want to think about.
Perhaps.
I can hesitation that perhaps, maybe. Okay, they're going to pay you $5 million. Take it, okay?
If they write the check. There you
go. It's all about opportunities here. Opportunities. Mm-hmm. Listen, I'm not going to take much of your time because I know you have a very, very busy schedule, and I have to finish my Cuban plantain. Now, before I let you go, girl, is there a message that you would like to communicate to your followers? to your fans, and to your people who love you from all over the world. Missy?
Rafa, you know, there's always a message with me.
Never-ending message from Sheyla.
I know. No, as always, thank you everyone for tuning into the show. Your support is incredible. It means the absolute world to me. As I've said before, pageants are by the people, for the people, and I cannot wait to represent Cuba with all of my heart. Oh, in Tokyo, Japan on October 26th. And every day before that, and of course, every day after that, a Cuban is a Cuban anywhere where they are in the world. And so whether you are on the island, in the mainland US, if you are anywhere else joining us, welcome. You are seen and you are valid. I love you all so, so much. To my Cuban people, never give up hope. One day, our people will taste freedom again. Thank you all for supporting me as you have done. I can't wait to see you all, and follow me and I will follow y'all back. I'll keep in touch with you guys. If there's anything that you'd like me to know, I want to be a queen of the people and I want to represent you all as you want to be represented. And so I'm open to messages of encouragement, constructive feedback that you may have, ideas like Rafa is full of for photo shoots, for branding, different things that we can do to kind of mix it up. And yeah, reach out to me. I am always here for you. Thank you all so, so much for the support.
Guys, please follow Sheyla on her journey to Miss International 2023. Follow her on Instagram. I'm going to put it down in the description box below. And it is so essential that we support, you know, Cuban women, Cuban beauties really deserve to be highlighted on international stage. It's been a long time, like over 50 years since Cuba has competed really internationally. So this is a new era. This is a new beginning for Cuban beauty, for Cuban women, and they deserve all the respect, the acknowledgement, and the recognition they deserve because they work really, really very hard to put Cuba, you know, on the map of pageantry. So listen, darling. Before I let you go, I want you to sort of like introduce yourself as Miss International Cuba, starting with your name and your title in a Miss International style. Go, baby girl.
Well, hello, everyone tuning in. I am Sheyla Ravelo Perez, your Miss International Cuba 2023, as of 3 weeks ago. I am not only Cuba's national coordinator for the UN's Ocean Decade ECOP program, I'm also Global Cleanup Ambassador, a woman of the people, and of course, una cubana hasta el corazón y hasta el fondo. I would love for you all to keep up with my journey, and thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you. And on that note, baby girl, have a wonderful weekend, and you and I will talk soon, okay?
We'll talk.
We'll talk. So goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
Thank you, Rafa.